Hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video I'm going to be showing you guys how to make chin-chin and buns with the same dough mix. If this sounds like something you might be interested in, please keep watching. So I started with sieving the flour and sugar. I used 6 cups of flour for this recipe and about 1.5 cup of sugar. I'm sure some of you might be wondering why I had to sieve the sugar. I sieved the sugar because it had some lumps in it. And then I added half tablespoon of salt, and then I used half of a medium-sized nutmeg. I stirred everything together with a spatula. So I used 1 tablespoon of baking powder for this recipe, and I got the baking powder from Stater Bros. And of course this video is not sponsored by Stater Bros, but hey, Stater Bros, if you guys come across any of my video and you guys want to sponsor my video, I'm more than willing and happy to work with you guys. I also used about 200 to 250 grams of butter, which I highly do not recommend, especially if you're going to make this exact amount of recipe, like as in the flour. Do not use a lot of butter if you're going to use the same recipe, the same dough for chin-chin and buns. I do not recommend you use a lot of butter because the buns might end up not forming properly. As you guys will see in this video what I'm talking about, you guys will understand my explanation as you watch this video to the end. So I had 6 eggs out there, but I actually ended up using 4 of the eggs for this recipe. I mean the raw eggs. I created a hole in the bowl and then poured the egg. So I also added the milk. I used evaporated milk. I actually used milk to mix the dough. You can use water as well, but to make it richer, I used only milk to mix the dough. Initially, the dough for both recipes, I mean the chin-chin and the buns, and I switched to using my hand after I used the spatula for a little while. So after kneading the dough, I cut it in 2, and I used the other half to make the chin-chin and the other half to make the buns. So that was what I just did there. Actually, one of it is bigger than the other, and I think it's the one for the buns was bigger than the other. So that was what I did there. So for the buns, I added a little bit more milk to mix it for the dough for the buns. So just to make it softer, because if I had fried it in the original state that I mixed it to be used for chin chin and buns, I think the buns will end up becoming too hard and not really edible. So I remixed and actually added a little bit of milk and water and remixed to the consistency. I sprinkled flour in between while mixing. So to fry in a heated pot, I added some vegetable oil and allowed to heat up before I started frying, and I fried on a medium to low heat. You don't want to use a high heat to fry your buns. So guys, I fried for a few minutes and I flipped to the other side so that everything could fry properly. And as I told you guys initially, that I highly do not recommend to use so much butter if you're using the same amount of recipe I used, because the first batch did not form properly, and I think it's because of the excess butter I used. This was actually my first time of trying this recipe, like trying using the same dough to mix for chin chin and buns. But the second batch actually came out nice because I had to remix the batter or the dough. I added a little bit of more flour to make it form well. So I don't know why the first batch came out that way. I actually think it's because of the excess butter, but I don't know. I was just experimenting this for the first time, but it wasn't bad after all. Anyways, it was just the buns that I was having a little bit of difficulty forming well the first batch anyways. So but the buns, the chin chin actually came out perfect. So for the chin chin, I sprinkled some flour on my working surface and then cut out my dough, spread it out or knead it with a rolling pin, and then I cut it with a pizza cutter. So when cutting the chin chin, I wasn't really aiming at any particular shape. I didn't have any shape in mind. I was just going with the flow, and I ended up liking the shapes of the chin chin. Anyway, it wasn't the shape I was trying to eat. Like I said, this was just an experiment I was doing. So I ended up liking the whole thing, the chin chin and the buns as well. So after cutting the chin, I fried on a medium to low heat until it's golden brown. Also, while frying your chin, you want to ensure that you are actually stirring it so that every part of the chin could get properly done, and also to prevent burning, ensure you're stirring your chin. So this was the finished look of the chin, and like I said initially, it didn't look bad at all. The chin ended up coming out so good. Yeah, this is a finished look of our chin and buns recipe. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you guys. Please do not forget to like, comment, share if you find this video helpful, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.